Hello everyone and welcome to my WWF No Mercy Let's Play series. In this episode I will be doing part 5 of my European Championship run. I'm a little bit behind. The last video I did was my Roman Reigns call episode, where I also did my predictions for the Royal Rumble. I had planned to do many videos after that. I had plans to pick up right where I left off with the European Championship, which I'm doing right now, as you see, with Matt Hardy. I'm selecting Matt Hardy, and I'm still in the path to as a challenger. I believe I just have Matt Hardy, and then the next run, which will be X-Pac, and then I'll move on to the runs that are just dedicated for the existing champions. But yeah, Matt Hardy actually had a really decent run as European champion, and I'm really excited to talk about that. But yeah, real quick, where I've been kind of, just busy with life. Having a wife, having kids, having a full-time job, having other video games distract me. I mean, it's just, I know, right? But anyway, I have so many No Mercy videos, so many revenge videos, so many Virtual Pro Wrestling 2 ideas that my list is extensive, so I don't really mind missing too much. I try to do these almost every day as much as I can, but life obviously gets in the way. But I plan on doing this for a very long time, so thank you for everyone who kept wondering where I was and bugging me and say, hey, when's the next European video gonna go up? I really appreciate that. I mean, that shows that you're watching, that you care, that something might have happened to me. But yeah, I mean, it definitely got me thinking, man, I really do have people that look forward to this and they really like this. I should get off my ass and get back to making these things as soon as I can. So here I am, I'm back with the Matt Hardy video. Unfortunately, because I didn't continue right away from the Roman Reigns Royal Rumble predictions and post show, there was a lot of other videos I wanted to do. I wanted to do a Daniel Bryan call video. I wanted to do a bunch of call videos. I wanted to do a Fastlane preview. Of course, I'm recording this. Today's Thursday. So this is since Sunday we had Fastlane, which I really enjoyed the pay-per-view. But I wanted to do a preview to that and then a post one, like how I did with the Roman Reigns and the Royal Rumble. So I mean, that doesn't mean there's not time. Maybe I still will talk about Fastlane later on, hopefully by like a week or so. If I don't get that Fastlane video done in time, I'll just start talking about WrestleMania. There's a ton of WrestleMania videos I want to make and talk about, my predictions, what's gonna happen. I want to do a bunch of calls for a lot of the new wrestlers and talk about what's going on in the current state of things, because I think that's the best videos, for me at least right now, to talk about the current state of things in the WWE and around everywhere else in wrestling. But for these European for Championship Series videos or any of my other Championship Series videos, I like to stick to what the context of the year was for the wrestlers I play as during the time No Mercy was out, or maybe a little bit after, depending on when they held the title. And Matt Hardy is actually a perfect example of that. So I'm kind of going to deviate a little bit. You'll notice I'll deviate a lot from my original formula. But that's good, because I feel like I'm just always going to be changing what I do and how I talk. I'm also going to start changing the format of these Let's Plays in the term of how I title them. I've been breaking them up into parts based off of the championship runs, but when I did the Roman Reigns video, I realized it'd probably be better if I just made everything episodic. And I follow a lot of other YouTube channels, and my daughter as well. She watches Stampy Longhead from Minecraft. And what I like about videos like that is that they just keep numbering the titles. And at first I didn't want to do that, but now I realize that's probably a better method, because then I can just keep making videos over whatever I want, and it's still WWF No Mercy, but every episode could be different. And episode 71 could be Intercontinental Championship Path number 8, and then episode 72 can be you know, Cesaro create a wrestler video or something like that. And then episode 73 could be Intercontinental Championship Run number 9. So I'm gonna do that format. I'm gonna go back and change the titles of all my videos. I think it's still early enough to do that. But anyway, let me get back to Matt Hardy because I'm already past the first match. I squashed the current European champion Christian, who I did the video, oh man, almost weeks ago with Christian. That was pretty cool. And Christian, and I should say Matt Hardy's kind of in the same boat with Christian here, where a lot has already been discussed because I did a light heavyweight run with Matt Hardy. So did I? Wait, did I? Oh man, I don't even remember what I did. I think I did, right? I feel like I did. Yeah, I think I did. No, I didn't. Alright. I should have looked up to see what freaking videos I did. I'm sure you guys can remind me if I did a Matt Hardy light heavyweight run. I feel like I did. Well, anyway, what I want to talk about in this video is Matt Hardy's time as champion. Now, he wasn't the champion during the year No Mercy came out. He actually became champion after that. So a lot of what happened during the year that No Mercy was being developed until it's released, which was from November of 99 to November of 2000. No Mercy came out in November 2000. The Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian, and then later on the Dudley Boys, were tearing it up. I mean, back-to-back match of the years. Literally match of the years. I mean, PWI voted both their WrestleMania table, ladders, and chairs matches of the year each year. But the WWE Tag Team division was on fire the year leading up to No Mercy's release, and the momentum carried afterwards. I mean, it was a great year for tag teams, and the Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian were definitely the focal point of it. You had a lot of other great tag teams, Too Cool, the Hollies, the Dudley Boys would come in later. It was just so many tag teams, so much variety, APA, and that was a great thing. That was a great thing for that division. It's one of the things missing, I feel like, these days is a great tag team division. But I'm not going to talk about Matt Hardy's tag team accomplishments that year because I feel like that would be better suited for his tag team run, because I'm obviously going to do a tag team video, or I should say a tag team championship path with the Hardys. So I'm just going to focus really on him being European champion, because that makes sense, right? I'm not going to talk about all his matches with Edge and Christian. I did touch up on that quite a bit with Christian when I did his light heavyweight championship run. So I'll talk about that, So I'll talk about more of their tag team stuff when I do their tag team championship runs. But looking up, Matt Hardy actually had a pretty significant European title run. He won it on an episode of SmackDown that aired on April 26th, 2001 by defeating Eddie Guerrero. And I believe Eddie Guerrero had just won it a few weeks before at WrestleMania, if I'm not mistaken. It's his first and only reign as European champion. He held the title for 125 days, and he was defeated by the Hurricane on an episode of Raw, August 27th, 2001. See, look at that. Not even a year later, you had the WCW guys coming in, and then the whole invasion angle would happen. And it just makes you wonder if we got a No Mercy game right after, just 1 year later. And they were working on one. Imagine all the people that would have been in it. Oh, it would have been awesome. It would have been awesome to have all those guys. But anyway, there I go, giving my back special to Mark Henry. Oh, I do want to talk about something, because one of the commenters pointed out when I was playing as Val Venus, I was winning a lot with the Fisherman Suplex. And my old WCW NWO Revenge videos, I had a few comments too about, why do I win with such and such move all the time, or when someone's finisher is, one thing, I win with another thing. I don't always go for the guy's finisher. Sometimes I just want to get the match over with, and I'll win with whatever I can. Also, a lot of the times there are moves that I personally am biased to, and I like doing them. As you can see in the first episode, I won with Matt Hardy's 450 splash, and just now I won with his like little fall away sleeper hold. I forgot what he would call it. But yeah, whatever fits me is how I'm gonna win the match. It depends on the match, depends on the situation, depends on who I'm facing. Sometimes if I think it's a big moment match, I'll make sure I'll win with a guy's special. But a lot of the times too, I just want to get through it because I don't want every match to drag out, because A, I don't want to end up losing, and B, I don't want to just make it go longer than it needs to be, because I do have to end up recording, and I don't want to just keep talking every episode for like an hour or two. I'll never get through all the videos I want to make if they're all really long. So but yeah, if you have any suggestions though about what you would like to see me do with certain wrestlers, send them to me so that I can at least plan ahead for what people might want to see. If people might want to see me do more of Matt Hardy's leg drop every match, or if I play as Jeff Hardy, it'd be cool if I did the swanton in every match, or won it that way. I wouldn't mind being challenged in that way to maybe always win with a certain move or a certain way. But just give me the heads up if you want to see that, because I think that would be cool. But otherwise I'm just gonna kind of go for it during the match and do whatever I want, especially with a light heavyweight wrestler like Matt Hardy, who has a light heavyweight moveset, I should say, in the game. Right there a little while ago I went for a diving attack. Like, I'll go for that all the time, no matter if I know the wrestler has that move in the game. So yeah, I just thought I'd bring that up. But anyway, I'm fighting Al Snow. I don't think I said what's the path I'm taking. The championship path I take in this one for Matt Hardy. I know you have to lose the second match, and then I win the third match, and then so this match I'm gonna win, and then the last two matches I win. So it's pretty easy for this path. You win the first match, you lose the second match, and then you win the rest. Again, if you want to get a nice link to the FAQ I use or the FAQ I use to complete this No Mercy series, it's on GameFAQs, and I put the link below. So here I go. I'm gonna go back for the 450 splash. Boom. I mean, the 450 splash is just a great move. I love it. I mean, in my if you check out my WCW NWO Revenge run as Juventud Guerrero, that was really cool because he ended his matches with the 450. But in that game, the AI is a little bit more difficult, and they don't stay down as often like they do, like they do in No Mercy. So it was really hard to get that off all the time, and I was so happy because in my final match for the championship in that run, I was able to win it with the 450 splash. So that was pretty cool. Anyway, I love the 450 splash. I myself can't do a 450 splash unless I'm jumping off a diving board, and even then it's not perfect. So to be able to do it every night, or at least in a lot of shows like a lot of these wrestlers do, I mean, it's incredible, to nail it almost all the time, and to not hurt the guy you're landing on, to make sure the spacing's good, or you could at least space it out on your own. It's impressive because it is not easy doing a 450 splash, just even off a diving board into a pool. I would try to do it so many times because I used to see it done in wrestling all the time. So when I would go to the pool, I'd be like trying to do my swantons and my 450, and they're hard, man. They're not easy to do. All right, let's get back to the Matt's accomplishments. So he's actually ranked 7th in total combined days as champion. If you're wondering why I'm even doing a Matt Hardy championship run, he's ranked 7th. So of all the people who's held the title, you take all their time as European champion, and considering he only held it once, that makes he's number 7. So 125 days puts him in 7th place. He's actually has the second longest individual reign as champion, meaning the longest reign for one stretch as champion. He's number 2. Obviously British Bulldog is number 1 with that first championship reign that British Bulldog had, and Matt Hardy's number 2. So that's pretty significant. Matt Hardy, very accomplished after breaking up with the Hardy Boys, when they split in the 2001 era, 2002 era. He won a lot of championships in his career. He was the ECW champion during when WWE had owned it. He was the WCW Tag Team champion with Jeff Hardy when WWE, absorbed it. He's a 6-time World Tag Team Champion with Jeff Hardy. He's a Cruiserweight Champion when WWE had the Cruiserweight title. He's a WWE Tag Team Champion, which is different than the World Tag Team Championship. And I'll get into that weirdness when I do the Tag Team title runs, because that bothers me. It's so weird why they did that. But him and MVP had those titles. He's a U.S. champion, European champion, and hardcore champion. So he held every title that he held besides the World Tag Team title. He held it once, which I think is kind of funny. He definitely had longer sprints holding it, and I think I actually get to that. Did I write that down? I think when I was looking this up, I didn't write it down, but what I noticed was that the year that Matt Hardy... Oh, no, I did write it down. Okay, I'll get to that. So let's get to why I think Matt Hardy's European run is pretty unique. So, like I said, he beat Eddie Guerrero on an episode of SmackDown. And so following that, at the end of the month, Backlash 2001, he was involved in a triple threat match, defending his title against Christian and Eddie Guerrero for the European title. This is the only European title match that Jeff Hardy had as champion that was on pay-per-view, his time as champion. All right, let's keep that in mind, because we're gonna talk about that. So if you go on the WWE Network, you'll be able to find this match. There I am almost getting leg dropped by Bull Buchanan. I think I was supposed to use items in this match, and I didn't. No, I don't think this was it. Anyway, it's been so long. I've recorded all these European title videos weeks ago. I'm just now getting around to voicing them, so I'm sorry if my commentary on them is forgetful. This is why I have to be adamant about recording the commentary after I do the videos, so that I can remember what I was doing in the match. Otherwise, I'm just gonna forget. But if I see anything that I'm doing different, I'll be able to recognize it and point it out. Handicap matches are tricky because, again, you gotta try to get a rhythm going. I like to switch up, attack one, then I'll switch to someone. See right there, I tried to switch to Buchanan, but he grabbed me, and now he's power slamming me, and now they're gonna probably try to double team me, and that's always no fun. Oh, they just go for 2 double hits. Oh, that was lame. They should have just double grappled me. And they could have double grappled me there, but they didn't. So, fortunately, the AI isn't that bright, because otherwise you just get completely smacked in this game. Like I said in all my other videos, the AI is much better in the other games, but I don't know why that is. I don't know why. Maybe they purposefully made it easier. Maybe people, were complaining it was too hard. I actually liked the challenge because that made every match different. But that's just me. Anyway, so going back to the triple threat match, it's a neat little triple threat match. Has too much interference for my blood. I mean, Edge comes in, and then Jeff Hardy comes in. It becomes more focused about the feud that Matt Hardy and Edge and Christian are still continuing after the TLC match. And it actually wasn't a TLC match. It was a triangle ladder match. It wouldn't be called a TLC match until SummerSlam, and then they would do another TLC match at the following WrestleMania. But so he was the European title champion, and this match took place on April 29th, where he defended the title on pay-per-view. Now, on April 10th, 2001, Jeff Hardy had won the Intercontinental title, and he only held it for 6 days before losing it to Triple H, and that's when I believe Triple H and Austin had the power trip angle. So yeah, I'll get back to that too. But I figured I'd place it. So you have WrestleMania happening. They have the awesome triangle ladder match. And then, which is just the apex of the popularity of their feud with the Dudleys and Edge and Christian. Then, a little bit later, Jeff Hardy wins the title for 6 days, the IC title for 6 days, loses it. And then a week or two later following that, Matt Hardy wins the European title, defends it on the pay-per-view, and now we're going to move on to the next pay-per-view, which was Insurrection, which was a week later, because they did this special pay-per-view in England. And that 2001 was so weird because you had WrestleMania at the beginning of April, and then you had Backlash at the end of April, and then you had Insurrection on May 5th, which was like a week later. So a lot of money to be spent within, 2 months, because you also got Judgment Day in May 20th of 2001. So another little fun fact. It's always good to look at the dates and the numbers. I'm big on that. When I look at wrestlers and I look at their accomplishments, I like to look at the numbers and the dates, and sometimes you don't realize how long or how short someone had the title. I mean, I knew Jeff Hardy had the IC championship briefly. I didn't remember it was for 6 days. Or when Kurt Angle would become the Eurocontinental champion, that only happened really briefly, but it sticks out in my mind so much because it was so significant, and they had that big, WrestleMania match around it. Or not WrestleMania, but that other pay-per-view, they had a big Eurocontinental match around it. Anyway, so we move on to Insurrection. Now, Edge and Christian, the Hardys, the Dudleys, and X-Pac and Just Incredible, who are rolling as X Factor, are in a fatal 4-way elimination match. So that's what Matt Hardy does. He's in this match with his brother as the Hardys. They lose. Edge and Christian wins. They go over. Next pay-per-view, Judgment Day 2001. Another tag team match. This time it's a tag team turmoil match. And this is Jericho and Benoit, Edge and Christian, APA, Malenko and Perry Saturn, Dudley Boys, X Factor, X-Pac and Just Incredible, and the Hardy Boys. Again, another pay-per-view, no European title championship defended. Jericho and Benoit win. They defeat Edge and Christian in the end. So then we move on to King of the Ring 01. And Matt Hardy defends his European title match championship in a match that aired on Sunday Night Heat. So it was recorded before the King of the Ring pay-per-view, but it wouldn't air until Sunday Night Heat. It was one of those Sunday Night Heat tapings that they did. Meanwhile, on the pay-per-view, Jeff Hardy defeats X-Pac in the third to last match for the light heavyweight champion. Well, not for the light heavyweight championship. Jeff Hardy is already the light heavyweight champion by this time. So he had won the title previously before King of the Ring, and goes on to face X-Pac. Third to last match on the pay-per-view. Speaking of X-Pac, here he comes. And I did a light heavyweight run with X-Pac, and I'm gonna do a hardcore championship run. A European championship run with X-Pac. Also, that's the next one. But Matt Hardy does his European championship match for a taping of Sunday Night Heat. Interesting. And Jeff Hardy would only hold the light heavyweight title for 20 days, and he would lose that light heavyweight title the next night on Raw to X-Pac, which I always hated. I always hated when you'd see a match defended on the pay-per-view and it was like a build-up to that, and then the next night on Raw the title changed, but it didn't change on the pay-per-view. And especially back then, because you're paying $60 for these pay-per-views. Nowadays, I don't know. I can't even say like nowadays is different with the network, because I still would like to see titles change hands, at moments that mean something. And I really feel like pay-per-views are built up to mean something always. When you have a pay-per-view and then the next night you have a rematch and then the title changes hands anyway, and if the match doesn't supersede, the pay-per-view match, it was like, well, you should have just had the title change hands at the pay-per-view. I don't know, but I don't want to get stuck on that topic because I'll be here forever on it. But maybe I'll talk about that later on. So then we get to Invasion, July 22nd, 2001. Matt Hardy inactive on that pay-per-view because he was actually attacked by Rob Van Dam before RVD's match against Jeff Hardy for the hardcore title. Who was the hardcore champion, you ask? Jeff Hardy was. So here we are. Jeff Hardy has gone through the IC title, the light heavyweight title, and now he's a hardcore champion fighting on the pay-per-view for the hardcore title. He's gone through 3 titles already, while his brother has been the European champion the whole time. Interesting, right? I think it's interesting. And he would lose. He would lose to RVD. So, since naturally he lost, What happens? SummerSlam '01 rolls around. We get a rematch between Jeff Hardy and RVD for the Hardcore Championship. And Jeff was champion going into the pay-per-view. So not only did he lose the title at Invasion, but he won it back. I think it was like a week or so later he won it back on a SmackDown or Raw or whatever. And then we get a rematch at SummerSlam with Jeff Hardy and RVD. Now, I'm not knocking Jeff Hardy, but I think this is a clear example of when tag teams break up, you always have one guy who they want to really push and one guy that they don't know what to do with. And unfortunately, Matt Hardy was that guy they didn't know what to do with. And I was always a big fan of Matt Hardy. And I think because Jeff, there was so much surrounding Jeff Hardy in terms of, they really thought he was this, he was like kind of the second coming of Shawn Michaels in a way, not in the terms of like, maybe like Shawn Michaels' charisma or anything, but he definitely had that it factor about him where he could go on and he could perform and pull out these great matches. I think Jeff Hardy's, advantage was that he was fearless. He was doing these crazy spots and people were eating that up at the time. And he was the one taking the huge swantons off the big ladders and stuff like that. And it was exciting. But, he was also really good in the ring, even if you took that stuff out. Matt Hardy was too. But just for some reason, Matt Hardy just didn't have, that mystique about him that Jeff Hardy did. And I think that's why they wanted to focus more on Jeff Hardy than Matt Hardy. Not to say that it wasn't warranted, but it's funny that the person that they keep putting on the pay-per-views is the person who keeps losing the titles. And I know it's scripted and WWE's the one controlling it, but like, you would think if they wanted to keep Jeff Hardy as this fighting champion, or at least give him a title that he can hold on to, or make him chase the title and not win it and drop it, and then now he's the hardcore champion and drop it, or now he's the IC champion and then drop it, or now he's the light heavyweight champion or drop, like there was so many titles at that time and Jeff Hardy was just going through all of them. Matt Hardy, meanwhile, is holding on to that European title, and then he would just lose it to an episode of Raw, So he only ever got to defend it on one pay-per-view, and that was the first. And he actually won the title like a week before the pay-per-view, not even a week before. He won it like on SmackDown, the SmackDown before. So literally like 4 days before, he wins the title. And otherwise, it would have been Eddie Guerrero as the champion, at the pay-per-view. And again, why would you do that? If Matt Hardy was gonna win the title, save it for the pay-per-view. Why do it on an episode of SmackDown? A taped episode of SmackDown, for that matter, that people can look up online and say, oh, Matt Hardy's going to become the champion. Okay, I guess. You know what I mean? It takes the uniqueness out of it, but that's been a problem that's been going on forever in the WWE, and it still goes on a lot today. I mean, they've been getting kind of a little better with it, with like, Rusev as a U.S. heavyweight champion. I like that he's been able to hold on to that title for a while, and in NXT, they definitely let the people hold on to the titles for quite a bit, and they lose them at moments that you can see happening, but yeah, poor Matt Hardy, man. I mean, not poor Matt Hardy, he's doing fine. He's still wrestling. Him and his brother both wrestle. They did some ROH stuff, and now they're both in Impact, doing some cool things in Impact. And I like Matt Hardy, man. I was gonna make him shirtless in this run, because I always like to mess around with the outfits, and he was always taking off his shirt towards the end of the match. That's how you knew a Hardy's Boys match was about to end. It was Matt Hardy was taking off his shirt, and then he was gonna like do a leg drop or something. So before I did this run, I do remember I was in the creative wrestler mode, and I was like, what alternate outfit can I give Matt Hardy? And I was like, I should just make him shirtless. And even if you watch that Backlash match where he wins the title, he takes off his shirt at the end before he wins. So that's just a little fun fact. But here I am, I'm facing Stevie Richards and Triple H. So I found out something interesting today. So obviously Stevie Richards is in this game. I think he might have been not a last minute addition, but he definitely is in the game in terms of like the storylines they represent. He's kind of a replacement for the Big Show because they took the Big Show out of this game. You can still make the Big Show in this game because it has all his gear, and by all his gear meaning they have the Showster, Hulk Hogan outfit that Big Show, when he was impersonating Hulk Hogan, he called himself the Showster. And then they also have the big old bastard or something like that, big dirty bastard or whatever. That was Big Show's like nickname at the time. And you can actually use like a Game Shark or whatever to hack his face. His face is still in the game. You just have to use a Game Shark to access it. A lot of people think one of the regular faces is his face, but that's actually not the case. But you can still make a good-looking Big Show without the face being hacked. And I'm gonna do that actually later on. I'm gonna make a Big Show, and do a little run with him. But I always love it when you have the no DQ and you can just pin outside. It makes the matches so much easier. Look, I'm winning a handicap match in 330, and that's really because I could do it outside. It makes it so much easier. But yeah. And, WrestleMania 2000, Big Show was in it. And I think it's funny because you had that WrestleMania 2000 game that would come out before the actual WrestleMania 2000 pay-per-view. And that pay-per-view obviously was the McMahon in every corner. And it was Big Show, Stone Cold, The Rock, and Mick Foley. And what I found out today, listening to Chris Jericho's podcast, where he was talking to Lance Storm about Fastlane and other stuff, Jericho was supposed to be in that main event at WrestleMania 2000. It was supposed to be Stone Cold, The Rock, Big Show, and Jericho. And I never knew that. And then Jericho said they added Mick Foley and they took him out. And he didn't go into it why. I think he maybe talked about it in another podcast earlier up, but I'm gonna have to research that. And because I thought that was very interesting, and Lance Storm apparently in his school has both posters. They have the original poster where it was supposed to be Jericho, Big Show, Rock, and Stone Cold, and then they replaced it and it was Mick Foley. I don't remember it being advertised that Jericho was supposed to be in it, and then he got taken out, because I just remember the moment where Linda McMahon came out and she was like, someone else deserves a chance to be in this main event, someone who's worked so hard, and I'm gonna back Mick Foley. And he came out and it was such a big thing. But yeah, why did I bring that up? Oh yeah, because the Big Show and Stevie Richards. Sorry, Matt Hardy, I'm talking about other people. Don't worry, Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy, oh man, there's so much stuff to talk about there, but I kind of want to save it for the tag team. But I also wanted to do a solo Matt Hardy run, because look, if anything, his run as European champion showed that even though there should have been a light shown on him during that time, he was still relegated to being just a member of the Hardy Boys, and Jeff Hardy was getting all the marquee pay-per-view matches. So why not, in 15 years later almost, I pay respects for his accomplishment as a European champion, and I give him his time. I give him his due. I give him his spotlight as the European champion. This is your moment, Matt. And look, stick it to Shane McMahon and Vince McMahon, who thought you weren't going to be as a top marquee star like Jeff Hardy. Oh man, but speaking of Matt Hardy, if you have the WWE Network, they have a show called Rivalries, which is really good, where they focus on, it's pretty recent, I think they started really doing it towards the tail end of the Monday Night War, but it delves into the rivalries between certain wrestlers. They're on-screen rivalries, but a lot of those on-screen rivalries, there was a lot of heat between the guys, usually behind the scenes. I mean, obviously the biggest one is like Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. They did start out as friends, and then just it's a competitive business, and they both had different personalities and different beliefs and ideals, and that translated to their actual on-screen feud. And then it was just heightened with like the screw job and everything like that. So, but they have a great Rivalries episode about Matt Hardy and Edge, which I thought was pretty bold. Well, not really pretty bold, because they did it when Matt Hardy came back to the company, they put it all out there about, Matt Hardy and Lita were an item, and then all of a sudden Edge and Lita are an item, and who's to say what really went down, who cheated on who or whatever, who knows what really goes on in these lives, but it was a big deal back then, and that's what kind of caused Matt Hardy to either leave or get fired, depending on who you ask. I think Matt Hardy will always state that he got fired, which is probably true. But he was brought back, and then they worked it into an angle. They were like, all right, well, we're going to have you guys wrestle in front of the camera, and you're gonna air your dirty laundry out there for everyone. So if you don't remember that, because it was awesome, it was a really good, he had a lot of great matches out of it. And these guys, at the end of the day, were able to kind of channel that personal resentment they might have had against each other and channel it into a really great storyline and matches. Watch it. I watched it the other night. It was really good. Matt Hardy, Edge, the Rivalries episode on WWE Network. Yeah, it was really good. I mean, Matt Hardy, in my opinion, was great in both ways. He was great as a singles competitor. He was great as a tag team, obviously, with his brother. I mean, they single-handedly, defined the tag team division for a while. And I think since their tag team run in the WWE with Edge and Christian, with the Dudley Boys, it hasn't reached that level since then. But I think all those teams, if you saw Edge and Christian when they split, Edge was promoted kind of to like the world heavyweight picture, and it took a while for Christian to get there. And the same thing with Matt Hardy. It took a while for Matt Hardy to really be put kind of in the big spotlight, the big storylines. The Dudley Boys, they split briefly in the WWF, and then they quickly were put back together. It's hard when you split a tag team up for both guys to find success. That's why I was really scared when they were going to split up the Shield, or when they split up the Wyatt family. I think if you look at the Wyatt family now, they're probably the ones struggling the most, because Bray Wyatt is obviously gaining a lot more success initially than Luke Harper and Eric Rowan. But the Shield, at least, they're all still doing really good, and all are kind of in like the main event spotlight in a way. But Matt Hardy, I gave him his spotlight tonight, and tonight he is a new European champion. Recorded weeks ago, I finally got around to it, and I'm going to do my best efforts to keep putting these out regularly and to have them uploaded as fast as I can. And I really enjoy doing these. I really enjoy hearing your feedback, so please send more comments, suggestions. I have so many of these videos I want to do, and I'm gonna do. I wouldn't be surprised if a year later I'm still doing them. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Give me a like, give me a subscribe, watch wrestling, get the WWE Network, and I will see you next time.